This is Gemara Nedarim Daf Tes Zayin. All the learning for this week. The week of Yidal Cheshvan has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf as a schos ilin neshama for Moshe ben Chaim Levi Bernstein, whose neshama I am sure is soaring higher and higher in Gan Eden Shamayla from all the incredible schosim of Torah being learned each and every day. And b'siyata d'shmaya, the learning the Torah Chabura should bring Rav Moshe ben Chaim Levi closer and closer to the Kisei HaKavod. We're holding on the bottom of, the bottom of Tezvav and Beis as we begin another Mishnah. And in reality, a lot of these Mishnayos are connected as we continue discussing the parallel between Shavuos and Nedarim. Nedarim working primarily on an object, like we saw from the sugya of a neder on something that I will sleep. And we said it can't be that I will see, but it has to go in your eyes. Whereas a shvuah could be chal, regardless of if it is on an item or not, whether it is on a chefsa or not. So it says the Mishnah on the bottom of Tezvav and Beis, shvuah she'eni yashin. And this, of course, is literally the flip side of the previous Mishnah back on, what was it? It was yesterday's daf, I believe. The previous Mishnah, no, it was on Yod Dalid Amid Beis. There when we said Kainam Sheini Yashan, now we say Shvuah Sheini Yashin. He makes a Shvuah, you will not sleep. Sheini Medaber, I will not talk. Sheini Mahalech, I will not walk. Aser. Even though previously we said it does not work, and we had a lengthy discussion figuring out what exactly was the case over there back on Yod Dalid Amid Beis. Over here by a shvuah, it does work as we just explained, because the shvuah could work even on an intangible item. Karban loy oichalecha. If someone says it is a karban that which I will not eat of yours, ha karban sha'oichalecha, or if he says ha karban that which I eat of yours, and I know I did not translate ha karban because that is going to be the discussion. These final three statements, karban, ha-karban, la-karban, sheikh lecha, says the Mishnah, is mutter. There is no shvuah in such a scenario. So we turn over to Tezvav Avin, incorrect. We turn over to Tezayin Amid Aleph, and as we've seen so many times, says the Gemara, Mani Mas Nisan, who is the opinion of our Mishnah, and explains the Gemara, who is it? Reb Meir. It must be that we're dealing with the opinion of Reb Meir, and this goes all the way back to Daf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph, in which Reb Meir taught us, when Torah says, Karban sha'oichalecha, Reb Meir said it is a good neder. So similarly, our Mishnah is the flip side. If you said ha karban shaykh lecha, then it is not a good neder. So explains the Gemara, we're going with the opinion of Rav Meir. The Rav Yehuda, we're going with Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda taught us back on Daf Yud Gimel, lo shani le karban, lo shani le ha karban. Rav Yehuda was not faced. It doesn't make a difference, say karban or ha karban, which again, this is the discussion back from there. And therefore the Mishnah cannot be Rabbi Yehuda. So now that we're telling us that the Mishnah is Reb Meir, so what's the obvious question? The end of the Mishnah. Ema seif le karban or la karban lecha. And as we've explained that the la is translated as loy. So loy karban lecha. What is that halacha said in the Mishnah? Muter vatanan. What's the problem? La karban lecha Reb Meir oiser. In such a scenario, Rameir says, it does not work. So ask the Gemara, what is going on? And why does Rameir say it doesn't work? This is a nice chazara back from a few days ago. Because nase ke'oimer la karban yehei kama. Because it says if he said it should be a karban, lefikach, therefore lo yaich. So ask the Gemara, the Seifa, the contradiction does not fit with Rav Meir. Now just to remind us, the reason that the Gemara back on Daf Yud Aleph through Yud Gimel had to explain Rav Meir perhaps in this interesting way that la karban means la karban yehei therefore I will not eat, was because Rameir held that Bechlalav Yata Shemea Hein, that you're not allowed to make a neder inferring the negative from the positive, and therefore La Karban Lo Yichlecha does not work. And that is the reason why Rameir had it translated like Rav Abba taught us, La Karban Yehei, Lefikach Lo Yichlecha. But now the Gemara has a problem, because now our Mishnah, if it is Shitas Rameir, why? Because it can't be Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda did not differentiate between carbon and ha-carbon, but the seif of the Mishnah does not fit with Rameir. Answers the Gemara, the same terrorist that we said back then, Loi kasha had amar la carbon, had amar loi la carbon. The loi have a carbon ka-amar. Over there, it's referred to, he said la carbon. La carbon, that's what Rav Abba said, la carbon yehei, therefore I will not eat. Whereas by us, we're saying that, what is it? Loi carbon. La carbon is translated as loi carbon, meaning the loi have a carbon. And that is the reason why Rameir says it does not work in such a scenario in our Mishnah. And now we continue with another Mishnah, Daf Zayin Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah, Shavua, there it is. Shavua lo eichlecha. So it makes a Shavua. This is literally the flip side. A Shavua I will not eat. Ha Shavua sheichlecha. Ha Shavua I will eat. Lo Shavua lo eichlecha. What is the halacha? Aser, the Shavua is chal. The Shavua does work. And he's indeed not able to eat of his friend. Just to see one Ran on this Mishnah for a moment, before we begin the Gemara, the Ran says, Mishom di Shavua loy oichalecha mashma b'Shavua loy oichalecha. That should be in a Shavua I will not eat. And such a Shavua is a good Shavua, and therefore it is forbidden to eat from his friend's stuff. Says the Gemara, that what did the end of the Mishnah say? The end of the Mishnah said, Ha Shavua, behold the Shavua sheichlecha. Or the second case I should say in the Mishnah means that he's not going to eat his friend's stuff, and therefore it is us. Mechlal, says the Gemara, the Shavua sheichlecha lo yachilna mashma. The translation of the words Ha Shavua is lo yachil. I will not eat. V'reminu, I'll ask you a contradiction. A Mishnah in Shavuos. Shavuos, Shtayin Shein Arba. It says over there that there are two types of Shavua, which are in reality four Shavuos. And explains the Gemara over there, Shu Eichel, Vishaloi Eichel. The two primary Shavuos. This all makes a Shavua Sh'Eichel or Shaloi Eichel. Both of these in the future. Sh'Eichel that I will eat. Shaloi Eichel that I will not eat. And now the two which is four, so what are the four? She'achalti, v'shaloi achalti. The two midarais are in the future. The two that we derive from there are in the past sense. And now we explain. Midika amar shaloi eichal, from the fact that he said, shaloi eichal, that I will not eat. She'achalti, v'shaloi achalti. And now we're translating that to mean that it's both positive and negative, that I ate and that I will not eat. Mechlal, so what can we infer? That when he says that means in the future, I will eat. So after this brisa, a little bit difficult with the tenses, but we see in the brisa that when someone says sha'oichal lecha, we're translating that to mean I will eat in the future. So what's the kasha? The kasha is, that's the exact opposite of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says sha'oichal lecha means to not eat. Just look back at the first line of the Gemara. The Gemara said, Shavua sha'oichal is deloyachilna. I will not eat. And we just said, shaloyachalta is ja'oichal, that I will eat. So Amar Abaya comes in Abaya. We're going to have two terutzim. Comes in Abaya, teretz number one, with a startling answer. She'oichal shtei l'shoynois mashma. Hebrew language is difficult, says Abaya. She'oichal, in a vacuum, that word has two opposite translations. And therefore, depending on context, we'll be able to see what it means. Oh, you misarvim by lechel, if they're pressuring someone to eat, va'amar, And the guy says, Achelna, achelna, I will eat. They're pressuring him, eat. And he yells back, fine, I'll eat. And then he says, V'su shvua shoichal, and he continues and he says, I'll eat. Shvua shoichal. So what does it mean? Contextually, we see it means he's going to eat. Da'achelna mashma. So we see it means he's going to eat. Aval amar lo yachelna, but if they're forcing him not to eat, and he says, I'm not going to eat. V'su amar shvua she'oichal. Same exact words. He says, Shavua, about eating. What does that mean? Clearly from the fact that he kept it saying a moment ago that he will not eat. So explains the Gemara, based on the context, we're able to figure out that this word she'oichal could mean either I will or I will not eat. In a scenario where he's being pressured to yes eat, then it means that I will eat. In the opposite scenario, then it means I will not eat. That is teretz number one of whom? Abaye. Rav Ashi Amar says, Rav Ashi, she'oichal de shvua, when someone says she'oichal with regard to a shvua, she'i oichal ka'amar. The word she'oichal means I will not eat. That's the translation of the word. Im Kain asked the Gemara, pshita. If that's what the word means, that it's obvious that there is no question. So what is the chiddush of the Mishnah? Says the Gemara, what is the chiddush? Explains the Gemara, you know what I would have thought? I would have thought that maybe he's stuttering a little bit. I would have thought that maybe when he's saying she'oichal, he just stutters, but it doesn't really mean she'i oichal. Kamash malan, that he means she'i oichal, I will not eat. So according to Rav Ashi, it's not that the word could mean both things, but rather it means she'i oichal, I will not eat. So now in the classical Gemara sense, the Gemara says we have two answers. They both seem beautiful. So why doesn't Abaye say like Rav Ashi, and why doesn't, Rav Ashi say like Abaye? So explains the Gemara. Abaye lo emar tam ki Rav Ashi. No, Abaye doesn't give the second answer of Rasi. Says Abaye, it's very simple. He said she'oichal, and you Rav Ashi, oh, you know what he said? She'oichal. No, he didn't. He said she'oichal. Says Abaye, that's why I don't like to answer Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi nadim min atam, and that's the reason why Rav Ashi nadim min atam de Abaye. And why does Rav Ashi not say the reason of Abaye? Because Rav Ashi holds she'loyoichal nami mashma shtei l'shoinais. The Rav Ashi did not say like Abaye that the word she'oichal means two different ways. Why? Because if she'oichal could mean two ways, then she'loyoichal could mean two ways. And therefore, what would I tell you? You misarvim by lechler forcing tivam loyachelna. And then he says, I make a shvua. So what does he mean? Explains the Gemara, whether he says shvua sha'oichal, you know what he means? Shvua that I will eat. V'ika damar. And I also can say that means I will not eat. Shvua d'loyachelna ka'amar. So says Rav Ashi, he doesn't want to learn like Abaye, that she'oichal could have two translations, because she'loichal could as well have two translations. And then the problem is, so what's the kasha? So why does our Mishnah limit it and only discuss she'oichal? You should have discussed both if both of them have these dual translation. So therefore, says the Gemara, elatana paske she'oichal, ta'achel namashav sh'loichal, loichal mashma. And therefore, Rav Ashi says, you know why the Tana only said one case? Because he's giving a clear cut. And that's why Rav Ashi doesn't hold of Abaye. Two different answers how to reconcile the Mishnah. And we continue the bottom of Tezayin Amud Aleph with is that Chayim Rabbi Shmuel's bin Nedarim. So the past few Mishnayos, as we started off today, was contrasting the differences between Nedarim and Shvuos. Nedarim have to be on an item, a Shvuah does not, etc. So now says the Mishnah, this Now, what does it mean, this? Whenever you start off a sentence with this, you open chapter 3. Which is the case, the Gemara is going to say in a moment. But this is a stringency of Shavuos from Nedarim, and as well, the Chaim Nedarim is Shavuos, and as well, there's a stringency of Nedarim of Shavuos. Keisad, Omar, Koinam, Soki, Shani, Oiseh. If someone says, Koinam, it should be a Neder. Sukkah, Shani, Oiseh, the sukkah that I make. Lulav, Shani, Noitel, the lulav I'm going to take. Tefillin shani maniach, the tefillin that I'll put on. Nedarim aser. If he said any of these words as a neder, then it is forbidden. There is a neder chal on the sukkah, on the lulav, on the tefillin. But b'shvuos, then mutter. But if he said these statements with regard to a shvuah, there is no shvuah chal, and he's allowed to do these items. Why? You can't make a shvuah, you can't swear to not fulfill a mitzvah. And therefore, for the fact that such a shvuah would indeed indicate that he is swearing to be over a mitzvah, says the Gemara, if one said this form of terminology with regard to a shvuah, it would not work. So by a neder it would, but by a shvuah it would not. So we have a chumrah of a neder of a shvuah, and a chumrah of a shvuah over a neder. We turn over to Tezayin Amid Beis, a short Amid. Says the Gemara, Chaymer Mechlal de Nederhu. For the first part of the Mishnah, if it's a Chumrah, that sounds like that there is a Neder Chal. When he says, Koinim, I will not eat of you, it is a Neder. Va Mutar Katani, but the previous Mishnah said there's no Neder at all. So Wes is going back on which case are we referring to? And if we're going back on the previous case of Koinam, I will not eat, how does the Gemara say that there is a neder? It's not true. The previous Mishnah taught us hamutar. Says the Gemara, seifa didach bava. Because you know why? We're going on the seifa of the other case, back to yesterday, to Zvavim and Beis, that says over there, Katani, Shvuah, She'eni Yashin, She'eni Medaber, She'eni Mahalech, Aser. As we started off today, this was the very beginning of today's year, the bottom of Tezvavim and Beis, that if someone makes a shvuah, I will not sleep, I will not talk, I will not walk, that is forbidden. The shvuah is chal, and zeh choymer b'shvuah is b'nedarim, and this comes out a stringency of a shvuah over nedarim. Why? Because if someone were to say koinam shani yashim, koinam shani daber, koinam shani mihalich, then what did the Mishnah yesterday teach us? It'll be under bal yachel devarai. The Mishnah on the bottom of Yudalid Amid Beis. And Ravina explained the reason is because you have to have a neder as to be chal on a chefsa, whereas over here a shvuah does not have to be chal on a chefsa. So Ravina yesterday explained a neder does not have to be chal on a chefsa. So what does the Mishnah mean by yachal devarei? Midrabban. Whereas our Mishnah says by a shvuah it is chal. That means midaraisa. So that is a scenario that there is a stringency of a shvuah over a neder. And now the Gemara continues that chaymer bin nedarim bin shvuos, that we have a chumrah. Excuse me, I don't know if I said that right. That is a chumrah of the shvuos over the nedar. And now we continue with chaymer bin nedarim b'shvuos. We have a chumrah of the neder of a shvuos. Ketzad v'chulu. So says the Gemara, Rav Kana Masni Amar Rav Gidol Amar Rav Yomi Masni Amar Rav Gidol Amar Shmuel. So whether it's the Rav Gidol in the name of Rav or Rav Gidol in the name of Shmuel, what do they teach us? We saw in our Mishnah that when you make a neder on a mitzvah can work, on the sukkah, on the lulav, on the tefillin, but a shvuah doesn't work. Why not? How do you know you cannot make a neder to transgress a mitzvah? Talmud Mar says the Torah loy yachel devarai should not desecrate his word devarai. His word, the singular, talking to the person himself. From there we infer, whereas when it comes to a mitzvah that's chafsei shamayim, so it will not be a case where there could be a neder. So it says the Gemara, making a shvuah, on a mitzvah will not work. Why? Because it's lo yachel devaroi. On his own words is when we're concerned, but not on the word of God commanding us to do the mitzvahs. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Ma'ishna neder, why are you, and that's a din by Shavua, that the Shavua will not be chal on a mitzvah. Says Mara, 1 second. Why is a neder not chal on a mitzvah? The Chsiv says in the Torah, Ishki the neder l'Hashem, lo yachal devaroi. Shua nami Yoksiv says the exact same thing by Shua. Oyishav Shua l'Hashem lo yachal devaroi. So I asked the Gemara, how are you telling me there's a difference between neder and Shua? The Torah says the same thing by both. Amar Abaye explains, Hada Amar Hanoah Sukkah Alai. Hada Amar Shvua Shalayehenim in Sukkah. Well, it's a very fundamental difference whether he made the Hana of the Sukkah Alai. Hada Amar Hanoah Sukkah Alai. That's going on the Sukkah, on the Chefsa, on the object. Then it will work. Hada Amar Hana Shalo Yehenim in Sukkah. I will not get any benefit from the sukkah going on the person. So that's going to be the difference. But now, says the Gemara, Amar Rava, 1 second. Fundamental problem, red flag. What do you mean you're making a neder or a shvua to not get benefit hana from a mitzvah? You're not allowed to get benefit from a mitzvah. Ela Amar Rava, new teretz in our Mishnah. Hadamar yeshiva sukkah alai, v'hadamar shvua shleishev b'sukkah. With this, we conclude the fundamental difference. Says Rava, the neder works when he says yeshivas sukkah. The sitting in a sukkah is upon me, and again, it's going on the object of the sukkah, and that's where it's going to work. Hadamar shvua shleishev b'sukkah, going on the person, then it will not work. That's the basic difference between a neder and a shvuah. With regard to making a neder or a shvuah and a mitzvah, we'll pick up tomorrow, dealing a little bit further with transgressing a mitzvah via neder or shvuah, etc.